Well, folks, welcome back to another Meet the Wild podcast. Today, you're meeting me,
Caleb,
and Matt.
Oh, yeah. So we have a couple topics today that we want to talk about. But to start things off, we are missing our fellow partner in crime, William. He's on his way to a wedding right now, which is lame. Tried getting him to call in. I don't know.
I think we need a formal introduction with this guy over here.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
We can, so Matt, I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcasts, but Caleb always gives the same intro every single time.
No, I know it. He's Caleb Vandergrew from
His family owns
Wine.
wine. Exactly.
No, I know it. He digs dirt for a living and he likes to shoot ducks.
What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, I don't know. Switch it up a little bit. Try something new.
Okay, let's do Matt first. Maybe he'll give me some ideas.
All right.
Take her away, Matt. Give us an introduction here.
Well, I'm Matt Beck. I grew up in Montague, New Jersey. I've been hunting with my dad and my family since I was probably 5 years old in the woods with them. Obviously not hunting, but
I was gonna say that you might be breaking a law there.
Yeah, I was accompanying them, and I have watched my dad shoot a couple since I was like a little kid, and that's what really got me into it. But like I met Tyler through high school and everything, and I met Caleb at one of our duck hunting spots one day.
That's how you guys met?
Yeah, I shot a deer, and I went over there to gut it, right? Because I didn't like doing it on the property or anything, because there's so many bears around.
I like where this is.
This is dead serious.
Sounds like typical Matt.
So I pull up, and
it's a total legal situation. Just
it is. It's just
no
like
coyotes, no nothing.
Yeah, I just don't like the pressure of the deer, you know? So I pull up, and here comes this swamp monster walking out of the swamp, holding a couple ducks in his hand. This is before the beard. This is before the beard. No,
I don't even know.
He had mutton chops that came down, and they just about touched his chin. I've never seen anything like it. It looked like Elvis and Willie Robinson put together. So
when he had his
long sideburns, yeah.
I actually used to envy the sideburns.
Dude, they were dope. I know.
They're still there. They're just hiding.
They're hibernating. That's all.
They're gonna come out here pretty soon.
Yeah, I used to, when you would come home from college, I'd see you in church or something. I'm like, dang, he's got a nice pair of sideburns.
They're like Ricky Bobby style sideburns.
And then I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I've got like 3 more peach fusses. Maybe one day.
It was pretty funny because that's how I met Caleb. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, he was with one of our buddies, Malcolm.
Okay.
And we got to like chit chatting and stuff. He's congratulating on my deer. I'm doing the same for his ducks and everything. And we just ended up going pheasant hunting somehow. And then
I don't know.
I don't know how it all started or not, but we went pheasant hunting. And he's like, "Dude, you want to go goose hunting tomorrow?" I was like, "Goose hunting?" I was like, "I don't have anything for goose hunting. I don't have a gun for that." He's like, just bring whatever you got. I'll bring you shells. Go pick up your stamps and stuff, and we'll be good to go. I was like, all right. So we went goose hunting, boy.
Now we did set up on a roost.
Oh.
And we were there at first light, and they were on the water. That was before we really truly got into the fundamentals of goose hunting.
This was the start.
Everybody's hunted a roost.
But I mean, this is what really got things fired up for us.
Oh yeah. Ever since then, we've been pretty addicted to the goose hunting aspect of it. But
how many? Let me stop you there for a second. How many goose hunts did it take, or how long on your first goose hunt or whatever did it take for you to be like, I'm going home, I'm buying a blind, I'm buying a dozen decoys, and I'm buying a call? Dude, because I'm doing this every day for the rest of the season.
I'll tell you what. I shot so many shells, and I couldn't tell you how many birds I hit because I just kept pulling the trigger.
I was the same way.
And to be honest, I was shooting a Mossberg 535, and I shot so many steel shells out of it that I didn't know you weren't allowed to shoot a full choke at the time out of the gun, like a standard full choke. Dude, I seized the choke in the barrel. That barrel's seen a lathe, a torch, everything you can throw at it. That choke ain't never come out of the barrel ever again.
That was great.
And ever since then, we became great friends. And me and you, we went to high school together.
Yeah, we did archery club and stuff.
Archery club and everything, and it was a good time. We never really hunted together or anything like that. And it seemed like after, high school and college and stuff, we all started to intertwine in between the friend groups because Caleb knew me really well.
We really kind of linked up through Caleb.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Most of my friends that I have now, I've linked up through Caleb.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny because
I met Eric through Matt.
Yeah, and then
on the same.
Yeah,
and he invited me to go pheasant hunt. And
so when I was in high school with you guys, I did share time, so we didn't really have any classes or anything together, so it was a little bit different.
Yeah. You went to high school?
Yeah. Did you go to high school?
Yeah, I didn't realize you did that.
Some days.
What'd you think I do?
I thought you were like filming out west or something.
In high school?
Yeah.
I wish.
Me too.
So, but yeah, my story is very similar to yours. Nick DiPiano took me on my first goose hunt.
And you're hooked ever since.
Oh man, dude, I was so hooked.
I probably got like $1,500 around my neck just in calls. And me and Eric went out. We got so addicted. We went out. We did a 10-hour round trip. We drove all the way up to New York State, just under the Canadian border. We picked up 10 dozen tangle-free full bodies, and we had them in a seed bag in the bed of my truck. Like it was about to go right over the side on the interstate. Like we hit like 15 snowstorms. Like it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And we've shot so many geese over them tangle-free full bodies.
We just shot geese over them last weekend.
We shot a bunch last weekend and the weekend before, and I mean we've shot 50 birds on a hunt, 70 birds on a hunt, however many. I mean they've done us real well so far.
Yeah, they're about due for some reflocking, but they definitely
no doubt.
Some stuff.
Yeah.
What really did throw me off like big time when we met him at that duck hunting spot
was my earring. I already know where he's going.
Yeah.
This dude walks up. I'm like, is that an earring? I'm like,
no, it's a stud, bro.
I'm like, who is this guy? Why is there a guy with an earring hunting deer? Like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's my buddy. I'm like, you got some weird friends, dude. I'm like, where'd you find this guy? The inner city or something?
Yep.
And we still joke around.
Yep. Because I still got it. He still busts my chops every day.
Who actually introduced you to waterfowl hunting? Was it DiPiano also?
I think it wasn't. Didn't introduce me to waterfowl hunting. It was actually a guy that he's like 75 years old now. Used to duck hunt some with my dad, and he always wanted my dad to go with him. Still, my dad could never go with work, so my dad was like, "Oh, my son will go with you." So I went with him, and that was my first duck hunt ever. I shot a passing wood duck that was flying like 500 miles an hour. I couldn't believe I even hit it. He never even saw it. You know, he blinked and it went by. But that got me excited about it. And then, started duck hunting with a couple friends, a couple people. And probably my first legitimate goose hunt, like decoys and stuff, was probably with DiPiano. He made a big mistake on that. He should probably never take me goose hunting.
I want to say, I feel like Nick, we got to get him on the podcast sometime just to get him to talk about waterfowl. But I feel like a lot of our age people, waterfowl hunting now is because of him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He kind of shot himself in the foot on that one.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
But
because every year it's
thanks to him especially, though.
I look at it and I'm like, he has gotten so many because it's Nick and I are friends, but we don't hunt. He's got his group of guys that he hunts with or whatever. So when I got to go with him once or twice, it got me into it. So then some of my friends and I would start going. So it was just another group. And then over the last, 5 years, at least 8 years, it's like every new person that we come has their group of friends that hunt. So now it's almost like
it's a revolving door.
Now it's there's a bunch of hunters and everything. And it's awesome.
It is.
But now you're almost battling these groups now.
Yes. You're fighting for spots here and there.
It rubs off on certain key people, and then those key people get another 5 people involved. Before you know it, now you got another group you're hunting.
Yeah.
And then it's now we're also obviously more grown up and we all have full-time jobs. So it's the hunting now that we do is a lot less than back when we were right out of
But it's
school.
back in the day. Back in the day, it used to be fighting deer clubs.
Yeah.
Come buck week, there's 10 different deer clubs that are going out pushing the same pieces. Now it's 5 or 6 different big goose clubs that are trying to kill as many birds as they can, and we're trying to do the same, obviously. But we just got to be a little bit smarter on how we do it.
I feel like goose hunting can honestly be a gateway drug.
It is.
And because of the fact that you can literally just have a shotgun, shells, and your stamps, and your license, and you can go with a buddy.
Yeah.
You don't need
it takes 2 people and you have a great time.
You don't even have to have a spot.
No.
Because
I could tell you how many spots we've hunted that
whoever's arranged the hunt,
but
it has, set all that up. They even have a blind for you. So I think it's a great way to get people involved to that point. But
100%.
And especially coming from like my family members, my uncles and stuff, they hunt deer, but my immediate family, nobody hunted. So for me, it was like my neighbor helped me get into deer hunting and stuff.
Yep.
And then like in high school is when I really started deer hunting on my own and stuff. And then going from that, like I had no idea waterfowl was even like a thing basically. So like deer hunting by myself or whatever, or trying to go with someone from high school, which is like you're quiet, you're in the blind, you can't talk, or you're in the tree stand or whatever. And then going on your first goose hunt where it's like you get there before the sunrise, there's a group of guys, you're brushing in, everyone's talking and laughing, or you're playing music or something. It's like this is awesome.
Yep.
Because you get to be loud, you have fun, you hear geese, you jump in the blinds. It's like
that was the same thing for me. I mean, my dad only deer hunted. Yeah. He didn't do anything else. I think he turkey hunted one time and he shot one turkey. He's like, "This is stupid. I'm not wasting my time."
Did your dad pheasant hunt?
My dad didn't. He pheasant hunted, but never had a dog.
Okay.
So like he would just go out, and if he was lucky enough to shoot one, he would. But like my whole family, they only deer hunt. So getting into the waterfowl aspect of it from Caleb, like I've never shot a duck before. I've never blown a goose call or a duck call. I've never shot a goose. I've never been in that scenario. Like it was completely different for me.
And now fast forward a couple years,
once
you're
fast forward, dude,
with the shotgun.
Once Matt picked up the goose call, he like couldn't put it down.
I couldn't. Yeah. I was in the truck for
just blowing it and blowing it and blowing it.
I'm a union carpenter, and I have really long commutes to work. Like back in the day, I was driving an hour and 45 minutes to almost 2 hours every day. I'd just be in the call working on it every day. Walk around the job sites. I was working on the feeder chuckle for the duck call and everything. I'm just training my tongue. The people are looking at me like I'm some kid that has some issues.
You're commuting down
it was so weird.
Central Jersey, you know.
Yeah, but like the repetition is what helped me out a lot. You know,
that's definitely like. I don't want to say this because I don't know if it's that true, but I feel like some people have what it takes to be a caller.
Yeah.
With goose call and duck calls.
I definitely think that's
true. Some people just don't have it. And I personally think I'm kind of like in the middle. I can honk and I can cluck and I can do some stuff, but like if you put me up to you guys or like D Piano or someone, I sound like garbage.
Right.
So like I don't think that I really have it.
But see, that's an important thing too, though, because for somebody to realize when you're going with a group of say 10 guys, that not everybody has to try to blow a goose call or has to, maybe that's just not your role. Maybe you have another significant role that other person's not very good at either.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Maybe you're the guy that's like, hey guys, like the wind, like you forgot about the wind.
Yeah.
Or hey, the sun is going to rise in our eyes. Like, maybe you should pay attention to that.
Or you're somebody that's got time to go out and scout for everybody.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And those can be all different people, but that's what makes it happen.
Exactly. Like, and that was like a little bit of a learning curve. I got my first goose call and like I would go with D Piano and I would be just sounding awful and he'd be like, "Hey man, like let me call." And I would be like
kind of
a little bit butthurt about it. But now,
because you want to be a part of it.
Yeah, you want to be a part of it and you want to help. But like fast forwarding now, like when I go with you guys, I don't really call because I don't need to unless like we're trying to be really loud to call birds in or something. Then I'll honk. But like to even finish them, like I'll just maybe moan or something because that's something easy that I can do and it helps add some realism. Right. But like
the thing is too is like when you start hunting the same group all the time. Especially when you're calling, like me and Caleb do most of the calling. Like Eric will chime in or you'll chime in, but like a couple of the guys just know. Like me and Caleb know how to work together, like trying to sound as those multiple birds. You can
bounce off each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we bounce off each other.
We're
talking the whole time where the birds are. Like we're working as a well-oiled machine the whole time, and the guys like everyone understands that.
Yeah.
Like we get it. You guys get it. You guys are killing birds, and we're. Our lungs are empty, but we don't mind. We enjoy it.
The thing for me is like I want to be more than a trigger puller.
Yeah.
So like I like to call, but I know I'm not good at it. So I'll do it to an extent where like I just try to like when I'm calling, I'll be like, all right, I don't want to like have somebody need to
yeah,
say,
but
like,
you're,
hey, man,
you're
like,
throwing in some side.
I just don't want to, like, I know that's not my role really. So like, I don't know. Like for instance, today I had off work because of the rain and I drove around for 4 hours looking for birds to scout.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think fast forwarding now, especially limited on time, scouting is even tough. But like, for instance, our first waterfowl hunt, the season opened on Saturday. None of us even hunted because we're like, all right, we'd rather take the morning off on Saturday and scout for whatever the holiday was, for Memorial Day or whatever it was. Labor Day to then hunt then, because like, you know, back in the day,
why waste your time when you can be sure?
Exactly. Especially now we're trying to film and produce content.
And now what's probably clicking in your head is you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go this Saturday. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like, I'm going to go this Saturday. We got the decoys. We got the spot. We don't really have to have a dog. It's in a dry field. Mm-hmm. But who's going to call if I'm focused on calling the shot and videoing?
Yeah.
And because now all of a sudden there's all these things that you're doing.
I know.
Which wouldn't be getting done if you were focused on calling the whole time.
Mm-hmm. But so that's also different. Like now, like I bring the video aspect to the hunt.
Exactly. Right. That's so exactly it.
Everybody gets to relive that hunt through my content. So like that's my role that I try and fill along with Will. So now, like when I talk with Brandon, like Brandon's in the same boat as me. He's like, I'm not a caller. I just don't have it.
Yeah.
Which is fine because there's people in that boat,
Yeah.
And he knows his role, like you were saying. So, but when I scouted today, you guys aren't around, obviously. We're going to talk about it. Matt's going on an elk hunt. You have to go to a cow show, but, he's like, I can't call, and the guys we're going with, we don't think can call. So like, I have to now call. So then I told Brandon, I'm like, you have to help me like doing some filming and stuff. And like, yeah, I think we're going to kill birds because they're in the field.
Right.
But
it just changes it up a little bit.
Yeah.
No, but it's definitely a good point. And I mean, like when we go to Arkansas, I'm not anything special on a duck call at all. Like sometimes it just comes out perfect, but I have to be like in the moment in the woods. It's kind of weird. It's like in the middle of telling a story with your best buddies. But like if you're going to tell your mom the story, like it just doesn't, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
That happens to me. But our friends that we hunt with there, they are the best of the best when it comes to calling ducks.
Which I'm sure is, it's like a more of an awkward position for you because like at home,
I'm used to,
you're the caller.
I'm used to messing with the call and talking to them, but I feel like here in the climate that we're in, there's a lot less chatter with the ducks, and it's more of your setup. If you're in the right place at the right time, we're there.
And the wind.
Any place can be the right place in the right time, but you got to talk them in. So there's a lot more talking that goes in the game, talking as far as calling. So for me, I put myself in that position. I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn as much as I can, and then I kind of figure like out how those guys are talking to each other. Maybe I do what you do. I'm throwing in a couple, this here and that there. Just adding some realism. I'm just a different tone,
I think that's a big thing too when you get into calling, at least for me, is like I listen to you guys or D Piano or I watch videos online and they're like bam, bam, like doing all these crazy things. And then I start practicing and I'm like all over the map trying to go 100 miles an hour.
Right.
And like, I think I'm a better duck caller, but like, I go online and I'll look up like duck sounds, and I'll be like the quack or the cluck, and then it's just
the
like
best thing that you can possibly do.
You just need a starting point,
exactly,
and then you can take off with that.
Besides listening to the birds in real life,
you listen to the birds in real life, and it's like, I don't need to be doing a freaking high ball, bam, bam, bam. Like I'm not that great at that, so I can do a couple quacks or whatever,
I think honestly we should at some point hit a video on this. As I never really thought of it as much until the other day when we were calling in that video and we were working some stuff off each other. We were doing subconsciously really, but in our heads, we already know what the sound is when they're landing. We know what their sound is when they're scared, which I sometimes hear people making that sound when they're trying to get them to come in.
Yep.
Which is sending them the other direction as fast as
possible. That might be me.
It's just like when you hunt with each other and when you see them locked up, and if they start to put their feet down, and all of a sudden both of you are making the same noise to try and keep them to land and finish right in front of you where they should, you guys are understanding the same. You're on the same page basically.
You're at the orchestra level at that point.
And like I've
you're
learned
not singing
that.
a solo.
Yeah, like you'll watch it in the video. Like they'll be 400 yards away. We're laying into them.
Mm-hmm.
They get closer. We settle down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, they're cupped up and they're 50 yards, but their feet are starting to drop a little bit, and we lay into them a little bit more, and they pick back up. And then we kill them. Like it's just we both pick that up right away.
And then
it's
the call is right back in your hands again. As soon as you figure out how to reload your gun fast enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get the shells back in, and you're calling them, trying to get them back on another swing. You know.
Yeah, I think it depends on like the group that you're hunting with. Like when I hunted in Oregon with Born and Raised, I feel like most of the time, and this was different for me. Like a flock will come in, they'll work them, they land, they shoot, whatever, and then they celebrate. Whereas we'll shoot and immediately try and be back on the birds and get a couple to come back. You know, it's just like
I think one thing that we have different than a lot of other states is that maybe we're not going to have as many opportunities, especially early season, because we're not hunting in the largest flyway in the country with the highest numbers migrating through the day.
That's definitely a big portion of it.
But our success per bird that is committing has got to be higher. So if there's like 3 younger birds in the back of the group that after we shot are still like, I don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a chance that we might get those 3 birds to come around.
Exactly.
Or even a wounded one. A lot of times a wounded one, if you holler at it enough, instead of going to die in somebody else's field somewheres, we'll circle back around and just do it dirty.
Yep.
I don't know
9
why.
times out of 10, that's what happens with a wounded one anyways.
Yeah.
Like,
And
try
then,
to land back with us.
Maybe 2 out of 10 times you get birds that, I mean, I guess it depends on the hunt and everything, but like some hunts more than others where you can call birds back in.
Oh, yeah. And how
that was the thing,
often do we shoot at a group and the other group is right behind that group, far enough that they didn't hear the shots, but they're in line. They got their landing gear set up, like they're talking to traffic control and they are coming down.
Yep.
Like you got to keep it real. Like you can't just stop talking and pretend like you're not there anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we were so good last hunt that Caleb's grandma came out and asked which one of these were dead. That's how good we sounded and how good our spread looked.
Yeah.
She said, which one of these are alive? I said, Grandma, not a one.
I kind of feel that like within the last 2 years, our group has changed a little bit. Whereas like we were talking about before, it was like this group, that group, and this group. It was a competition, and we definitely still have that. But I think we've kind of
intertwined a little bit.
and not been like he's from a different group. We don't want to have him come
right.
And it, I think that's I think that has kind of helped our hunts go more smoothly. Is like, all right, we're gonna like everyone kind of fits in together now, and we all work together. Whereas before, maybe it wasn't as
tight knit.
Yeah,
no.
But then it gets like Caleb and I were talking about this. It gets tough, especially when you have some other guys that you take out hunting, and then they want to hunt every time, which is totally fine. But then like,
you're not bringing any land to the table.
Yeah, or it's like, hey man, we already have 10 guys.
Right.
I think we've gotten a lot better at hunting with bigger groups. Yeah,
mainly because of that factor. And before the 1 bird limit came into effect, I mean, we had to learn how to hunt with a lot of people because
we were hunting 13, 15 man hides,
Yeah, that's huge.
And I mean, we were killing limits, but it was a stressful limit.
Yeah,
like you get groups that
really
that
hanging
see
it in there a little bit later because
exactly
any educated birds are like, wow, that is a lot of blinds.
But we used to try and hunt with 6 guys, and it was like nobody else can come.
Right.
And then there's people that get upset or whatever. But I think I guess it's this year's just been. It started off way different. I think it's for the better. And I think that since we're all working together now, it just makes for a better hunt, a better experience and
most
stuff.
definitely.
Yep.
So
it's real good.
But yeah, I don't know. So far this season has been awesome. We have to talk about some archery hunting, but as far as waterfowl for the hunts that we have had, scouting is a huge part of it.
Oh yeah.
Which I didn't take as serious in years prior, the scouting aspect.
The rule of thumb that I've learned probably in the last 4 years of my hunting is where in the past, like when I was younger in the hunting scene, if there was like a chance that they were going to be there,
you'd go.
I would go.
Yep.
But I had a lot more open schedule.
Yeah.
Now your schedule's not nearly as open. If you're going to take a day or use a day when you could have been doing something else to go hunting, like you want to make it worthwhile.
Exactly.
So now I try to use the 2-to-1 rule, where 2 days scouting or 2 hours scouting to that one of hunting, normally plays out good. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be scouting for 2 days or, have to come up with that much information on the birds or the deer or whatever it is, but somebody within the group.
And even it could be any of us.
With deer hunting, I tried to do that last year. Yeah. The exact same thing. Instead of like, okay, I'm just going to go hunting because I have some free time. Like, no, I can't. I got too many things going on. But I can put a couple extra cameras in the woods and probably do a little extra scouting, on Sunday afternoon when you can't hunt.
Yeah.
That's going to give me a really good idea for when I need to pick that right time. Mm-hmm. So I think that definitely comes into play, especially as you get older and your family, you grow your family, you're getting married. That's something coming up for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited.
That's a really good thing.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. It's going to be great, but it's going to be...
but it is different.
It's going to be different, yeah.
Instead of going to drive around the block like 30 times at night so you can see what, do a little scouting.
Exactly. You can't do that.
Like, hey, you want to stay home, watch a movie, and cook dinner together? Didn't we do that last night?
Yeah.
No, we haven't done that in like 2 weeks. Man.
Oh, man. Shoot. I thought that was 2 months ago. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So just a lot, time allotment, but it's good stuff.
I know. It's crazy. I feel like I worked back then and I work now, but...
Right. You're like, what the heck changed that I just don't have as much time?
What changed where I can't hunt nearly as much as what I used to,
Part of it, I think, is because there's something associated with when you get older. Maturity means not hunting as much. Mm-hmm. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely something there where society, friends, family, whatever, that don't understand your hardcoreness are like, well, because you're older, you have more responsibilities, so that means you can't hunt as much. Okay, well, I see hunting as part of my responsibility, and I am going to make the most of my time and make it worthwhile, but I'm not going to overdo it to the point where my obsession with it wrecks something else. It's just being smart about your time. But that bothers me, where people are like, well, because you're older, you shouldn't hunt as much.
Yeah, for me, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen.
But I look at our dads, though. They're older. If they wanted to, they're at the point in their lives where they could just
that's like
take the time and do it. That are no, we got to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Questionable, yeah.
My parents know when they call me as soon as it's opening day that if they call me any afternoon, 10 to 1, I will be in a tree stand. Or, well, I hunt out of a saddle, but
Matt likes to scout with his bow.
I'm right there with you, Matt.
I'd rather go out and just sit in the woods and appreciate it and poke and hope sometimes. But, if you're not successful on your hunt, you're learning something every time. You always try to take something out of it.
And I've always I also feel like in my younger hunting career, being successful was harvesting a deer.
Exactly. Oh yeah. But now we're older, and all of a sudden it turns into you see a little basket 8-pointer, and you're like, man, 5 years ago I would have smoked that sucker. Now you're he needs 2 years, and then maybe.
Yeah.
But you're very more.
But we're not trophy hunters though.
We aren't. No. And I've never been. If I was fortunate enough and it happened, dude, I'm all for on the ground crying my eyes out because I'm so thankful.
But you've killed maybe you've harvested enough doe where it's I've shot that basket rack 8 and you want to hold out for something more.
Most definitely.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Most definitely. I'd rather shoot a doe than shoot a deer that has potential
to
be something, whether I get it or not.
Especially that basket rack 8 was the awesomest thing ever because all you had a chance at was a Y buck that broke off one of its sides.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you go through those levels almost as you get older.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're not going to take a crack at a management bow at any chance you got. Everybody's in different scenarios, private land, public land, whatever they're doing.
Well, that's just it. So when I got into hunting, literally, I think my group of my uncles and everything were the only ones in this area, maybe in the state, that did archery deer drives.
That's awesome.
I grew up with, back in the day, it was so much better before all the bears and everything. There'd be 30 deer run by. You didn't know which one to shoot. You'd be drawn back for 2 minutes and the line's still going. it was more difficult, but I was raised to where if you have an opportunity, you're shooting. It could be a fawn. Like stuff happens. Like if it's a fawn, it's a fawn. But it's meat on our table, and that's how we survived. Like that was just the way of life for us, you know.
It's nothing to see Matt. Like Matt might go on a trip where most people go on a trip and say they like go to Ohio or something. Like they're coming back with 140 plus inch deer, or they're not pulling the trigger. Where Matt, he's working on filling his freezer and enjoying the good time. He goes to New York State. He sends a picture like this. What was it? Like a basket rack
Yeah, it was like maybe.
He's like fired up, sending me all kinds of videos, freaking out. I'm thinking he had a heck of a time. Like he had a great time.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it wasn't about the horn. It didn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It didn't matter at all.
The experience to me, and say like I took my knowledge of however many years in hunting in New Jersey and I used it in another state and was successful. You know, like that's the biggest part for me is, you know, at least you can get yourself in the right position to be successful, you know?
Definitely. And I'm going to Virginia. Will and I are in a couple weeks, and I'm probably going to shoot a spike if I have the opportunity to shoot one. Like an out-of-state hunt is
Would that be your biggest buck?
Probably, yeah.
Dude, I tell you what, when we went to Ohio, I kid you not, it was all public land. Like my family stayed on 40 acres and it was all private. So me and our buddy went out and hunted all public, and we saw at least 45 different bucks, and I missed a giant 8-pointer, and I like almost fell out of the tree when he came down to me, and that's probably why I missed him, because I've never seen one that big in my life. But if a little basket 8-pointer was coming by, he was probably going to get it. Like I couldn't help myself. Like
Born and raised always said it. Don't pass up on the first day.
That's it.
Pass up on the last day.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you got to remember.
That's exactly it. Well, that's like what my mindset is going into this elk hunt is if I see that thing and it, like, honestly, any bugle's probably going to get me out of my skin. But
my advice to you would be any legal elk
that's
you
it.
kill, you have an opportunity.
It's got to have 5-inch eye guards. So it could be a spike with 5-inch eye guards. I don't care.
And a good opportunity where you can make a good shot.
Exactly. It's got to be an ethical shot.
You'd much rather make an ethical shot
yes.
on a small bull that is legal
yep.
than make an unethical, out of your range, quartering to you, facing you shot on the state record bull, and you just wasted it.
See, I don't care about it. And my whole life, like in hunting, it has never been about inches, because back in the day, inches wasn't a thing. You shot an 8-pointer, that was cool, man. Like that was great. All of a sudden, like 5 years ago, everyone's talking inches, like 140 inches, blah blah blah. Whatever. That doesn't mean a dang thing to me.
I think a lot of people. I think a decent amount of people in New Jersey don't even know how to judge a deer.
No, they don't.
I had no idea until I went to Iowa.
Oh, yeah. Well, because they grow literally, they're the land of the giants out there.
Exactly. Like I shot an 8-pointer here a couple years ago. I'm like, that's a 130-inch deer.
Yep.
Now it's probably about 110.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
115 max. You know?
No, I know. I'm the same boat.
Yeah.
I never knew how to score until last year. That was the first year I learned.
Yeah.
I don't think that I tried to learn how to do anything with scoring deer, like you're saying, until it became like a community thing of, well, we only shoot them if they're 130 inches.
Yeah.
Thinking,
what's a 130-inch deer look like?
Let me Google a
That's
couple
exactly
photos
how
of this.
I was.
But then once you see, you're like, okay, that is a pretty big deer, but what if you have like a special connection? Like, you know, you've been like working hard to try to shoot this thing. You know, at that point in my life, I think when I realized 130 inches, same thing. I probably had, at that point, I had a 118 that I was like, this is a monster buck.
Exactly.
Like, this is awesome.
Yep.
So it's really what it means to you. But then you put Matt and myself, just before this podcast, we're on a property where we're trying to cultivate the growing of bigger deer. That is the whole goal, because it is a private piece of land to be able to do that.
And it's big enough to be able to do that.
It's big enough to try to do that. And here we find ourselves with the spotting scope, okay? And we know about where the deer are going to come out into the field at night. And we get within what we thought was spotting scope range, which probably was like blow dart gun range.
Literally.
We did not need a spotting scope.
It wasn't even binocular range.
No, we could have used one of those little pocket ones that like goes like this,
Yeah.
like, and you look through.
A pirate telescope?
Yeah. And these deer are right there, and there's, a nice little wide buck, good little body on them. perfect basket rack 8 that 6-7 years ago, we probably would have been sneaking back to the truck to get our bow.
No doubt.
To put a stalk on him.
No doubt.
If we didn't already have our bow. Like, we wouldn't even done that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even gone with just a spotting scope.
Yeah.
You know, your first reaction on the phone was like, why aren't you shooting? Well, because we're trying to figure out who's who.
Yeah,
I'm just getting inventory.
Like every time I call Caleb now, it's either he's in a loud machine, I can't hear what he's saying, or he's like, hello. I'm like, what do you do? Stop yelling.
Every time.
He's like, are you hunting? I'm like, no. He's like, why are you whispering? I'm like, why aren't you whispering? This is the whispering wild.
There's deer 30 yards from us.
Yeah,
like
they ain't deer. It's people across the street that we're trying to get eyes on, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, you can't make it up.
Yeah.
But it's what we're doing is good. Like, we're trying to manage it properly, which, you know, back in the day, management was not a thing. Like,
no.
Whatever ran by or you had past your tree, you tried to take it home with you. You know?
And in our state, you can't be hunting on a public piece of ground unless you're exclusively the only person hunting it, and it's like 600 acres, and say, well, if I pass this basket rack 8, he's probably not going to get shot. I'll shoot him next year.
Oh, yeah.
You more than likely, that's not going to happen. Like, there's a slim chance. That's how giants come about, and New Jersey does have some amazing deer hunting. And some giant deer.
I think it depends. Like, you might have 600 acres, but if it's all open hayfield, then
something that New Jersey has that I think goes for it, and the reason that we can produce big deer, and a couple other states the same thing. We have what I would like to call refuge properties that are large farms that, for whatever reason, the landowner does not permit hunting. It's heavily hunted on the corners.
Sanctuary pieces.
But this piece of property is a sanctuary, and I can name probably 10 off the top of my head that I know, because those properties exist, is why a deer, we'll go back to inches, 140 inches, gets shot within 2 miles of there every single year.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
during the rut.
Right. That's the kind of things that play, I think, into our hunting.
100%.
I don't know about you guys, but I think I would like to see at some point in New Jersey, which I doubt it'll ever happen, but antler restriction.
Before you even say it, I was going to
That's what Pennsylvania went to.
Pennsylvania did it, and it took, 5 years?
It took 5 years, but they started shooting some seriously good deer.
Well, once you get through that 5-year curve, it's enough time for people to actually, like, think about their shot and what deer they're going to take, because now here it's like if you see 100 inch or plus deer, it's like, well, I'm probably not going to see that again.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you can't go out and hunt. Like, you might see that maybe once a year if you're lucky, depending on how much you hunt and stuff.
Yeah.
But
what do you think the restriction should be?
At least 3 on one side.
Yeah, I would say, what did PA? It's
3 on one side,
right?
yeah. So, like, if you see a buck come out and, you know, you throw the gun up on it, you got to make sure that thing has 3 on one side. If it doesn't, you're, you know, in some trouble. But it makes you more selective, and it gives you that opportunity to, like, let the spikes get to that growing period if they have to. You know,
I'm totally for, like, as far as youth hunters, no restriction.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I think that's great.
But I feel like if New Jersey had antler restriction, we would see a lot bigger deer.
Well, now you're
But let me just close on this point. I don't think the reason why I don't think it'll happen is because our deer population is already so high.
Right.
It'll just never.
It's not.
I don't think it'll ever work.
It's not just the deer population is high. It's just the people. Like, our population is high. Like, most of the zones, like, New Jersey's broken down into zones. So in one zone, you're allowed one doe, like, per season, and a buck. So, like, you have to buy permits for all, like, your late season bow, your muzzleloader, whatever. But in other zones, you can shoot 9 does per season. So that's fall bow. That's, you know, winter bow,
you can shoot 20 deer off the same property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the more populated areas of the state, and that's where you can shoot your amount of deer.
And in most zones, if you carry all the permits, I think you can shoot 6 bucks.
You can.
Yeah.
Fall bow, permit bow.
Yep.
Muzzleloader, 2
buck week.
During
buck week,
yeah.
or if you shoot 1, you can shoot another one during doe days with the permit, and then your winter bow tag.
Yeah. You're allowed $6.
If you think about that, like compared to other states, $6 and most are unlimited does come muzzleloader.
Yep.
Like that's a lot of deer. I want to say we looked at it not too long ago. Was it 60,000 deer that got shot last year?
Oh yeah, they shot it. There was a whole bunch.
Like 55 or 60,000.
Yeah. But you look at it from I think like accidents with deer, that takes a big toll on it. Like you could drive down any road here in northern New Jersey and you will see a deer on every single road dead.
Yep.
And alive.
Yeah. But like I'm saying hit by cars. Like,
they say that the car insurance companies don't play a toll on that. But
do they really?
I believe they do.
I think
they say that they don't, but I believe they do.
We wouldn't have a deer season if it wasn't for the insurance companies. That's what I think.
It's God's honest truth. Because like New Jersey's full of anti-hunters that like don't appreciate us taking deer or bears, whatever. And
their voice is a lot louder than the 2% that hunts.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So like you go from Sparta, where is like a really populated area, and you have a main highway there, 15, and then you can get into 206 down there. You're allowed 9 deer per season there. Up where I grew up, there's hardly anyone up there. I think my town is 3,500 people.
Yeah.
So there's less cars on the road, less deer getting hit. You don't need to shoot that many deer. Bigger woods. You don't have to shoot that many deer. More side roads where people aren't taking. So like
more room for the deer.
Exactly.
Don't need as much room for the people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what I personally think it is controlled by the car insurance companies, but I don't know if we'll ever find that out.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess this is a good segue into our most recent hunt together.
Yeah.
One that I've had a lot of fun on.
That was a good time.
It was awesome.
Will had harvested his first whitetail deer with the bow. First deer ever also. Now he's not here to defend himself, so we have to tread lightly. We might have to circle back on this when we have him with us, but the way it worked is, well, I guess you can kind of explain the situation, Caleb.
Yeah, more or less what happened was while we were goose hunting, I started to hear some chitter chatter about how to go after this target deer and how to shoot your earn a buck doe. At the same time, I was thinking was what I was hearing. And just what I was hearing was starting to worry me. So I got thinking, I'm like, man, if Will wants to shoot a deer with that bow that he's been practicing with, I think I know a spot where there's a lot of does, and as part of a management plan, we have put into practice that we're trying to harvest these does off a specific spot in the property. And I'm thinking, this is a perfect opportunity for Will and for the rest of us to get involved in kind of like a group hunt, which is something that, like we said, you don't normally do when you're deer hunting, right? And I was like, well, why don't you guys, come over, we'll go brush out the blind, and then we'll go deer hunting. And Tyler's like daydreaming about this big buck. He saw one picture of it at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, get out of
here. So he's like, I don't know. Will's like, that kind of sounds cool. But I didn't realize that what it was going to turn into, really. I was thinking, it's going to be a good opportunity. But it went probably about as smooth as I think it could have gone.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so to paint the picture here, we have a 10, 15 acre hayfield.
Yeah. It's probably 15-acre pasture ground.
Let's say it's shaped like a rectangle.
Which the cows are not in it, and this is an important point to make beforehand. We have a problem managing the deer off this part of the farm because anytime you're hunting 10 or 15 acres of grassland, it's hard to find that live edge where it's going to be the hot spot. Yep. And they're coming from all angles, going to the middle of the field so they can see far. So it's so hard to interpret where they're going to come from. You hunt out there by yourself with a bow, you got 40 yards of effective range, and they're always 140 from you.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect storm. Now, we can't wait till later in the season because come muzzleloader season, these deer, A, are moving to other grounds to feed, and B, the cows are out there, and for whatever reason, the deer don't like this field when the cows are out there.
They seem to not like any of the fields when the cows are. If a cow is in the field that typically the deer are always in, they could be in there for 10 days straight. You drop a cow in there, they won't show up.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know why, but that's just what happens. At least here anyways.
So anyways, paint the picture of what it looks like while we're...
So it's a rectangle field, and the long way, it's split, it's surrounded by fence, it's bordered in, and then down the long way of the rectangle, right through the middle is another fence. And it was a surround and drown type of situation. So we had Caleb on, let's just say, the northwest corner-ish, right? You were close to the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably like 8 yards from the corner.
It was the southwest corner, but we'll go
wow,
with it.
okay. I'm just painting it as northwest, whatever. Caleb's in the northwest corner-ish with Will. Matt would be in the southwest corner.
Yeah.
And I was on the east side in about the center. And the wind, it was
started good and it got funky.
It started good. Let's just say if we're doing the whole north picture, we had a west wind, which would be blowing east, and Caleb and Will basically were blowing their wind into the field, kind of.
Yeah, I mean our wind was kind of blowing out away.
Yeah, it was us. Basically everyone had kind of a little bit different wind, but
yeah, that was the kind of the goofy part about it.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange.
You were saying the wind was going one way. I'm like, the wind's going the other way.
Yeah, I know. By the time it got me, it must have swirled.
I'm like, okay.
We did have some swirly winds, but basically there's on Caleb's side of the long part of the rectangle, there was woods, right? There was a driveway that ran along parallel with the field, and then there's woods right next behind them. So it's the field, driveway, woods, and those deer were filtering out of the woods coming into the field. Now, meanwhile, how long is that? How long is the field?
Probably
400 yards long.
More than that. It's probably at least 6 or 8.
Yeah, it's probably like 550.
So these deer can come out of the woods at any spot on that 800 yards, let's say.
Any spot. And come from all sides.
Yeah. They came from
you.
me, they came by you. So
before you guys got here, actually, Matt and myself, we took a little ride over there because I had never thought about like what scenario would happen if 3 different groups were hunting the field at the same time. And I got looking, I'm like, man, we almost need to set up like an A-frame in the middle.
I know.
And
you like kill them.
And just wait in the A-frame. And then I got thinking about it, I'm like, the only problem with that is if the one person in the A-frame does something wrong and the deer spot him,
it's over.
He's on the ground, the whole thing's over.
Yep.
If they're in the tree and they screw up, there's still a chance that they go to a different direction and maybe something good happens. But if you're on the ground, you're toast.
Yeah, in the center of the field. Yeah.
You're just
so basically, I guess, Matt, you can kind of take over how the deer came out and how that kind of played out.
Well, we brushed in the blind and we got in like right when the deer started getting into the field. Like
it was probably about 15 minutes late.
Yeah, like
I had
about
a little
15
pause
minutes.
for lunch almost killed us.
Yeah.
I had two climbing sticks on the tree and there were deer in the field already.
Yeah, so basically I was walking to the tree and I could see a deer run up the driveway towards Caleb and Will, and I'm like, oh boy, this isn't going to be good, you know? So I set up and everything. I'm watching Tyler and Caleb and Will get set up. And in between me and Caleb and Will, like, there was probably 5 or 6 big does and probably, I don't know, it seemed like every doe had 2 fawns. So let's just say 10 fawns, right?
Which we had decided beforehand, if we could help it, don't shoot any does that have very young fawns.
Exactly.
Not that it necessarily posed an ethics problem, but more personally with me, I have a hard time doing it.
Same here.
Because I wouldn't be able to stand the fact that, I just shot this mother while she has 2 fawns with spots on her still that, just saw it happen. It's not like they're part of the herd now, you know?
Well, that's the problem is, like, the antis don't see us as having hearts when we hunt. Right. So, like, for me, I was the same thought process. Like,
we're looking for the oddball.
I want that lone doe that's not producing a fawn anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I want...
Or that's already kicked them loose.
Or the one
7 years old and like 185 pounds.
Yeah, like the one that's by herself.
To snort at hunters.
The one that's by herself and she's picking you out at 100 yards. Like, we got to get her out of here. You know?
Yeah.
So I get set up, and I mean, it wasn't more than 10 minutes, and all these deer start filtering in between me and Caleb and Will. Tyler's like 30 feet in a tree. I'm watching him go up. And
yeah, it was sketchy.
He was up there a good ways.
Did you have your parachute on?
Pretty much. I was so high, I was tied in with my linemen's and my tether.
So all of a sudden, they like start working my way. And I was like, I really didn't want to shoot one because I wanted to see Will be successful. And they come up and they're within like 50 yards. And all of a sudden, everything was great. Everything was dandy. They had no idea I was there.
Except I could see your tree shaking from where I was.
Yeah, that's probably true. I get pretty worked up.
150-foot oak tree was going.
I didn't even know what tree Matt was in. I thought he was in one tree. He was really in a different tree.
So they get to like 50 yards. Everything was cool. They hit 49. All of a sudden, one of them big mollies picks her head up and she starts giving me the old head bob. And I'm like, oh man, here we go.
And you were tucked in.
I was tucked in good. So like I was on the edge of the field, but I was in a big oak and I had some really good lanes. Like I was only 2 sticks up. But on my backside was an oak rocky ridge, and I think the wind was hitting that and then swirling back down to the field. That's what I think was going on. So she starts like gawking at me and everything, and she's 46 yards. And for some reason, I don't know why, but when they get curious, they tend to walk closer. Like I don't know.
They always give you 5 yards at least.
Oh, 100%. So she gets to 46, I think it was, set my dial, and she was super alert, which I probably shouldn't have taken the shot, but I felt confident I shoot that far all the time. So I take the shot, and she ducks me so quick. Like, I mean, as soon as it left the string, her belly was on the ground. And basically, it was clean miss. So after that point, they ran right up the fence line to Caleb and Will. And I mean, we're in this giant green field that you can picture. And I mean, it's massive. And Will ends up getting a shot at 10 yards. And I watched the whole thing through my binoculars, and when you guys watch the video.
Yeah, I will say, if you want, you can pause now if you're listening or watching, and you can watch the hunt because the hunt will be posted before this podcast. So
yeah,
that'll be sweet.
So
just I can't wait get some bearing on it. Yeah.
When you watch this hunt, I hope Tyler throws in the GoPro footage because I forgot to turn it off, and I am like losing my mind in the tree stand. Like I didn't even shoot the deer or nothing, but I was so happy for Will because I watched them go right up to the tree. I watched him plug her. She mule kicked, and then I could see the blood pumping out of her.
That's so awesome.
And she falls over, and all the other deer are like, what happened? Like, why are you laying down over there? They just like walk up to her, they sniff her a little bit, then they go on about their business.
It was just such clean execution. The only thing that wasn't clean is I'm not a camera guy, really.
A saddle hunter.
Yeah, I've never hunted out of a saddle. Yeah. I always wanted one, but in school I just would sometimes hang from my harness because I thought that it worked. Now that we got these cool saddle things, I'm definitely going to make an investment.
Yeah, you got thrown to the wolves on that one. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So here I am. I'm hanging, and the straps around my legs are way too tight. I'm wearing Matt's girlfriend's saddle. Okay. It is like a thong on me, right? And I can't figure out if I'm supposed to be standing up on this platform or if I'm supposed to be hanging from it or if it's there just to help me. I don't know what's going on, but we're making it work. And I went into it totally not even thinking about my bow, nothing. You
didn't even bring your bow.
I didn't even bring my bow. I'm just
filming.
The camera guy. That is what I am. I'm behind the camera, and I'm going to just make sure that Will's on the right page with what's going on. And just enjoy the fact that there's zero pressure on me. I'm just having fun.
Yep.
And here, I make a big mistake right off the start, big mistake. I got my wife's fancy camera, and for Christmas, I bought her this big lens. I mean, this thing could see Matt in his tree if I could figure out what tree he was in. All the way across this field, right? So my plan is to film with this big lens because I'm thinking it's going to be impeccable. I'm going to be like just looking at the deer, nothing else, super cool. In my head, it's a great idea. Major design flaw, my wife's camera bag is meant for on the ground, not in a tree. So when we go to climb up into the tree, I'm thinking first thing in my mind, I'm like, 101 cameraman, you got to hit the interview. Mm-hmm. That poses a problem because this lens...
Talk about the camera arm.
Well, yeah, I'm getting to that point. Okay.
All right. I know you're skipping over that one.
At interview length, this is like from me to you away. Yeah, I'm looking at just your mustache, singular hair. So I'm knowing that this big lens is not going to be it. So I put on the one a little smaller. I don't know what the technical term is, but whatever.
More a wide angle.
Right. Wider, better, whatever. Mm. So I put on this lens. My wife gave me very special instructions. Don't scratch it. Don't do this, whatever. I'm like trying to get the caps back on it. Meanwhile, I see the deer starting to come out of the woods. I'm like pacing Will, like, hurry up, dude. Like, we got to get in the tree. Here they come kind of thing. And I'm thinking they're going to wind us. It's all over. So I got the little lens on. I get in the tree. I'm like, going to shoot this interview. This is going to be sweet. And then I'll switch lenses. Next thing you know, I see the deer's tail go up and they do like that circle thing, like something just happened, but I don't know what just happened. I'm thinking, oh shoot, Matt just shot, or they winded him or something. This is our opportunity. The deer are going to start moving now away from that corner of the field.
Yep.
We might have an opportunity. Well, now I've got one expensive lens in this hand, the other one's in the bag. I'm hanging on for dear life. Okay.
Will's got you 75 feet up in the tree.
From basically a snap swivel. All right. And I'm thinking, man, I hope this thing is rated to my weight, because if it's not, when I have one hand on either lens, I ain't going to be able to grab a hold of anything, because if I drop the lens, I might as well be dead anyways, because my wife's going to kill me. So here I am trying to get the lens out of this zipper bag. It's like,
Yep.
and it folds down, and I have it hanging off a ratchet strap. And I can't get the lens out. I'm fumbling, but I finally got it out. Now, this would have all been made much simpler if I could have put the camera on the camera arm that Matt had laying around. He's like, oh, dude, take this with you. Set this up in the camera arm. It'll be great. I put it on Will's backpack, and it got all the way up there. His backpack's hanging on the tree. Before I'm going to switch the lenses, I'm like, oh, let me get that camera arm. Something happened. I hear wham, and it hits on the fence post underneath us. All the deer are like looking around, and I'm thinking, great, now I got to freehand it. My first day as videographer, and I'm freehanding it. This is going to be terrible.
And I'm still setting up at this point while this is all happening. And then I get a text, and at first glance of the text, I thought it said, I dropped the camera. And I'm like, Caleb is dead. I'm like, oh no, like first time in the tree with the camera and he dropped it. I'm like, this is a disaster. But then I kept reading the text message and I read it a couple more times. I'm like, oh, the camera arm. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So as soon as those deer, I saw them circle at that range, I'm thinking something's happening. I finally get them switched around. I'm like, I don't even know if I have the right cap on whichever lens, but I got a lens on the camera, like it's go time. And the direction they're coming from, there's a tree. Well, I'm looking at just a singular leaf on the tree, so I can't figure out even where the deer are coming from. And finally, they come through the opening. And I'm like, okay, doe, fawn, doe, fawn, doe with another fawn. I'm like, man, why are all these fawns so tiny? And then this one just cuts through the group, and she's like that old leader doe. And she cuts through, and she's like really wary. I can tell that she's not with any fawns, because I'm doing the math quick in my head, and Will's asking me, like, what should I do? I'm like, take her, pick it. That as soon as she moves her front leg, do it. And I mean, it was, which you'll see on the video.
Yeah,
it was about
perfect.
as straightforward, picture perfect as you could have gotten.
It was textbook.
It was textbook. And the best part was that she was not only in our shooting window, she was at a range that we knew was a specific range of 10 yards. And that was the only range we knew, because when we got up there, I asked Will, hey, you got a rangefinder so you can hit some points to see, He's like, no, I don't have one of those. I'm like, oh boy.
I wish I knew what button was the wah, wah, wah.
I'm like, all right, well, the brush hog pass is 8 foot wide, and just count the brush hog paths or count the fence post, and you'll know how far it is. Well, luckily, we had established that the telephone pole was 10 yards. And she was standing right in front of the telephone pole. So there was no doubt when he pulled up, it was the top pin, and that was
Let her ride.
all it was going to be.
That's it.
And he made about as clean a shot as I think
It was
could
perfect.
make.
For
It was
his
beautiful.
first deer ever, and his first opportunity ever with a bow, I mean, it was literally a 10 ring. Like, he smoked that.
Yeah, he
thing.
could not have made a
Couldn't
better
have
shot.
made a better
She
shot.
ran
40 yards and fell over dead.
And before I was done filming the clip, my phone's already vibrating. I'm like, great, what is this? I pick it up, and Matt's on there. She's down, great shot. Like, he's going crazy.
So from my view, I had no idea Matt had shot.
Oh, no?
I just thought they worked up towards you guys, and I saw the deer moving towards you, and then I started filming. I'm like, oh, they're working up towards Caleb and Will, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw them all run away. I'm like, he must have shot. And then I'm like really looking through the binos, and you'll see in the footage too.
It's like, so far with the binos, you probably could barely pick out.
Yeah,
like,
I really couldn't tell. There were so many limbs and stuff in that black walnut and stuff. I couldn't really tell, but I never saw anything fall over. So I'm like, dang, I think he missed one or whatever if he shot.
Dude, it sounded like you hit it with a 2x4 from where I was
know,
sitting. It was
I
so
couldn't hear
loud. I
anything.
was like, holy smokes. Man. That diaphragm just went kapow. And I was like, he had to smoke that
fixed
thing.
blade.
Oh, yeah. So I watched her go through, like, with the binos, and she fell over down. And I literally, like, I texted Caleb, she's down. And Tyler, because we were in a group chat. And
this was what, 5 o'clock?
I mean, we weren't in the tree for more than, I don't know, 45, maybe 45 minutes, the latest, maybe half hour. But then Caleb calls me, and we're all, like, celebrating on the phone and everything. And then Tyler tells Caleb that it was Will's first deer, and Caleb just, like, loses it over the phone. He's so jacked up for him. He's like,
what do you mean? Because I had no
Neither
clue.
of us did. I didn't have an idea.
Will was just like, did I hit him? Did I hit her?
Did I get her?
Did she go down?
I'm like, holy smokes! Like, if this was my first deer, I probably would have just peed my pants.
I know.
At 10 yards, with them all like that, like balled up. I mean, just as the camera guy, I was doing all I could do to just stay still, because since the camera arm was closer to the deer than it was to me. And with this big giant lens, I'm like trying to hold it and hang on. I'll tell you what, on that saddle, the clip slid over one of the knots. Dude, I thought I was following the Davy Jones' locker. Like, it felt like I was going to fall 400 feet. I felt like a quarter inch, but like it jolted me so bad. Oh, it got my heart just roaring right before the deer came. So I was like still like a little on the jitter side.
I looked through the footage quick. You executed perfectly.
I'm glad
with the video.
I appreciate
you did a good job.
I'll take that as a tip coming from
the GoPro footage is probably super shaky because the tree's like this the whole time, shaking
GoPro
like
has good.
I'm so
it's probably really good.
I can picture what it looked like from your view.
Me cussing at myself.
I can't picture what it looked like from his view.
It was hard for me because I couldn't see everything. Yeah. But I just from like when Matt was sending Snapchats, he had this perfect window of the whole field. Matt had like literally a TV view of the whole thing.
Basically, my up middle of my torso was covered, and then I had all clean shooting lanes. So like from their point of view, they can only maybe see my hat, but for me, I can see all of them. You know, so Tyler had to get up a little higher to get through a good lane in the canopy, where I only had to go a few sticks.
There were so many branches on my tree, I just had to keep going up and up and up.
So the reason we set Tyler up over where he was a couple nights before I sat out in that field, and there's one opening in the fence there that every deer that came from that direction crossed that fence. So I'm sitting there, and I throw the binos up, and I see a fence post, and the fence post has ears. I'm like, what in the world is going? Am I seeing stuff? And all of a sudden, she turns her head, and I'm like fumbling my binos. I put them back in the thing. I'm like, dude, you got deer coming like 40 yards. Tyler's
I'm sitting there like,
what?
I don't see any deer 40 yards away.
How do you see that from there? Like, because no one knew where I was at the time, but. And then I don't know what happened from there.
The wind was perfect in my face the whole time. I'm like, man, I got the best wind out of everybody here. And then I'm like, Matt texts me and says,
behind you.
No, they were coming out front. It was perfect.
They did, they came out like 40 yards in front of them.
Matt texts me, you got deer in front of you. I'm like, all right, nice. I'm like, I don't see any of the deer. And then bam, I get hit in the back of the head with some wind. And then I hear, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my luck.
And honestly, it wasn't even like anybody was in the best spot.
No.
I thought that it was probably almost 100% even on what was what.
Most definitely.
Due to the fact that like I know the deer come out right under where you are.
Yeah.
And those are normally the group of deer that don't necessarily have fawns with them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's a good opportunity. I knew where we were was tricky because normally they're out further in the field there.
Yeah.
They normally aren't hugging those fence lines like they were, but for whatever reason, I think it was because they were a little spooked.
Yeah.
Because once they were by him, which he was kind of in a pretty hot corner, but sometimes the deer don't make it there till dark. You know, if they're grazing across the field. So I'm thinking, who knows? Any best guess. But I think because they kind of had their feelers out, because once you shot, I think they were kind of like...
They didn't know whether to go under the fence and go back home to their bedding or what they should do.
Just stay out
there. How many times did the deer blow out of the field? One or two would stay. A couple of them just bedded down, but then they came right back.
Oh,
yeah.
At
least twice, right?
Yeah, multiple times.
They just could not decide what to do.
I mean, when we were getting down, there was like probably still 30 deer in the field. Like there was one laying down after the shot, and they still didn't even mind.
But that is a funny point back on the rangefinder thing. Like I remember I got up in the tree. I was high, but I'm like looking into the field. I'm like, oh, that bush is. I'm like, I don't know. It's probably like 30 yards. Range it, I'm like 57 yards. I'm like, okay.
Well, and that's the worst part about field hunting.
It looks so close, and I'm like, shoot, that's 50 yards away.
Well, that was also your first time with Aiders, so why don't you tell them about the Aider experience, dude?
Oh, yeah, I got to talk to you about this. So I run a tethered Phantom saddle, and I have.
Can you drop a link to that below so I can look it up?
Yeah, I can drop a link. And I have a Predator XL platform, and then last year I ran Hawk Helium sticks, and Matt's like, "Oh, you got to try these Muddy Pros or whatever. They're a shorter 2-step." So we're like, "All right," and he's like, "I brought my Helium sticks, but since we're hunting here, he's like, I got extra ones you can use or whatever. You can try them out." I'm like, "All right, sweet." And Matt has been talking about the 8ers on his sticks because you run
2 double step 8ers on the bottom stick, the middle stick, and I run a plain stick up top.
And you take 3 sticks or 4?
I take 3 sticks.
3.
That's it. And I'll get like 20 feet.
Yeah. So I've never used 8ers. So I've heard good and bad about them. But obviously my first times trying to set up or whatever, I get the second stick up and I stick my foot in it and I'm like, whoop. I'm like,
they're definitely a little on the sketchy side.
I'm hanging for well, once I got it figured out, you put your toe against the tree. Or
your
whatever.
toes got to stay against the tree or you're going to be eating the bark.
Once I got it figured out, it was good.
Yeah.
But to touch on that, you're running the custom am steel stuff. So anyways, on my tethered Predator platform, I have the
Versa button.
Yeah, the Versa button, and it's not a ratchet strap.
It's a cam buckle.
It's not. No, the cam buckle's what's on the Muddy Pro.
It's just like a buckle.
It's like the cinch strap, and then you hold the button to loosen it. But like, even last year hunting with it, Will and I, and this year, it's like when you try and throw it around the tree or this and that, like where it's tied on the platform, it'll always ting.
Yep.
And it's super hard to get rid of that.
So this is a good way to do it. Is I got one of those like flexible bungee cords things from Home Depot, and I tie it around the platform.
Yeah.
And when I'm standing up there, I hook it onto my lineman, so it just sits there, and I can easily reach around the tree and run the buckle. When I did run the buckle, now I run the 1/8 inch.
So anyways, Matt was like, "Oh, dude, you got to go on customamsteel.com and you can get a daisy chain for it."
Yep.
I'm like, "Oh shoot, I better look into that." So I'm sitting at home, whatever, a couple nights ago, and I go on the Custom Am Steel, and I bought a 8-foot.
Yeah, that's what I run.
1/8 inch.
Yep.
I'm like, there was like a 7/64 and 1/8 inch. I'm like, dang. I'm like, I'm going 1/8 inch.
Yep. I did the same thing. I'm like,
so I got a 8-foot daisy chain with 2-inch loops, which is what it said for the Predator platform.
Because of the button.
Because
the
of
buttons are different sizes on some things, but
and I got that in the mail, so I'm super excited to try that out.
Heck yeah, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, I just got to figure out how to use it.
It's really not that difficult.
No, yeah, but anyways, that way to get rid of the buckle. I mean, you spend all this money on all the gear, and then you're still tinging around in the tree. You know,
like, there's always a better way. You just got to tinker.
Yeah, I will say that was something about the saddle. Like, I love the flexibility of it, especially you can go any tree, anywhere, any tree within reason. But one thing that I saw was if you are not 100% proficient in all the angles and
there is a
levels
curve
that things have to be, you will actually maybe not physically hurt yourself, but hurt yourself in terms of hunting because, okay, it's great. You got this gadget you can hang from any branch anywheres. But
if you're not proficient with it,
you can't get at the right angle to draw your bow back. You're hurting yourself. Yeah. Or even worse, it takes you time as well as make a racket getting in.
Yeah.
So I think like some of the stands that I hunt that are just an old hang-on stand and it's got a rickety little ladder getting up there. In 30 seconds, I go from crunching leaves to silence.
Yeah.
Where like this, if I was standing at the bottom of the tree trying to figure this thing out, banging buckles around, I set it up too low, too high, I'm snapping branches off.
Well, once you get
I'm in
system,
a tree that I've never been in, so I don't know where my shooting lanes are.
Yep.
So there's a lot of curves, I think, that come with that.
I agree. Like, especially like when you're hunting public a lot, which like we all hunt a lot of public land, but you get to a tree and you get up to your second step, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I got no shooting lanes. If I go higher, I'm screwed. So then you just say, you know what, I'm just going to set 2 sticks high. Like you got to make that judgment call as you go. But when you get a system down and you like are proficient at it, I get sub in probably like 6 minutes.
Right.
And I'm ready to go, like hunting my bows up.
And you shot a decent amount of deer off of it, so like, okay, I can make that work.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a compromise that I'm willing to take.
You got to set it right.
This is a compromise that I know is not going to pan out.
Exactly. But if you like, you got to try and set up on the side that deer is going to come from.
Yeah.
Because you're offside shooting, you need to have that time that you see the deer and go, man, I got to make a move quick. Throw that tether over the shoulder or pick your bow up over your tethered or whatnot. But you got to try and, set it up the right way. Because if you don't, you're going to be hurt.
I 100% agree with you. I still think that you have more shooting opportunities with a saddle, though.
Oh, 100%, because you're facing the tree, which, whatever. But you can hide behind the tree as the deer comes, and then you can shoot on the complete opposite side. You have the opportunity to shoot 360 degrees.
Yeah.
If you play your cards right.
Yeah. And you've done your practice with it.
And you've practiced
Absolutely.
with it, obviously. Like, you hunt out of a tree stand, you should practice out of a tree stand. You hunt out of a saddle, you should practice out of a saddle. Ground blind, same thing. It's all...
I hunted out of a tree stand earlier this week, and I still like tree stand hunting, but it's like once I started saddle hunting and I got proficient with it, I sat in the tree stand and I'm like, I can't get comfortable.
Nope.
You can't figure out where to
and
put
I'm
your
like,
gun,
I just wish I was in, and like I'm just like, I feel like I'm in the wide open with deer coming at me now. Like I'm like, and then tonight I hunted in the saddle again, and I'm like, I can get my backrest. I put my foot on this limb or over here, and I'm just like, this is just so much more
so much better, and your opportunity is even better because like when your back's to the tree in the tree stand, and say a deer comes from behind you, what are you gonna do?
You got to stand up. Exactly.
I'd rather be like saddle. You can swing on your knees, so like you're more.
I think it's just a fluid movement.
Exactly.
Even if you're in the sitting position.
To make an important point on that I was going to say before you even said the word fluid, that's exactly what I was going to use. When you're tied to a rope like that, you're almost like in pendulum mode.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're always working against resistance of the rope, and it's always, you're kind of working with it, right? Now,
that's a great way to explain it.
Where you're just free in a tree stand, you're all over the place, whatever. Which can be fine.
Or if you go to stand up, it's just like...
bang, up. You know, you got to make that transition. Often the rail is never the right height.
Mm-hmm.
You become fatigued in a different way.
Yeah.
I like the saddle because of that, especially because I think that you can make those small adjustments by your waist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
100%. It's not like, let me turn around and, look. And what I was kind of getting at before is, when I hunted in college, I had like no money to buy tree stands, and I worked on a farm. And one of the benefits of working there was that I could hunt there, and because of that, I would just scrounge together any junky little stand that I could get.
Oh, it was the same way, yeah.
And I knew that it wasn't safe to sit. Like they were old little hang-ons, and I had foot peg, a ladder, all kinds of stuff strapped to the tree branches, whatever, to get high enough. But I would always wear my harness. Just because, for one, my mom would drill me, make sure you're wearing your harness, And in a ladder stand, when you're growing up, you're like, I don't need a harness.
Yeah,
I'm in a ladder
exactly.
stand, this big bar, When you're in a janky stand in the top of a beech tree, it's like, okay, I'm definitely going to wear my harness on this one.
I was always afraid of falling asleep.
Well, that too. Yeah. But I found that I
could
could use the harness to my ability. And this was before I knew anything about saddles because of that pendulum effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're hanging from it, all your movements are totally different, and you can get away with really leaning out. Bring my mic with me. Really leaning out because you're tied in.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think the saddle takes that and really runs with it.
And I think with that constant tension on it, I feel more safe in the saddle than I do the tree stand.
Literally.
Oh, 100%.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. I honestly like in a tree stand and in a harness, like you're tied in and everything, but I'd rather.
There's no tension.
There's no tension on you.
The foot and a half of slack is.
You fall, it's gonna drill you. Like at least if your feet slip off your platform, you're just dangling there and going, oh, well, I just fixed myself. But I feel so much safer.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm fully connected all the time to that tree.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it's like people say, oh, there's what you move way too much in the saddle. It's way too much movement. Blah blah blah. I agree. I think I move way more. However, like you were saying, the movement is so much more fluent.
It's almost like
that
on a shock.
I don't think it affects anything.
I mean?
I think what you gain from hiding behind the tree and the movement is so much more fluent than like if I just bruntly stand up, you can clearly see that.
Yep.
But with the saddle, you have that tension. You can do it at half a mile an hour.
And you got to think too, is like for a deer perspective, and when it's looking at you, basically it looks like your feet are coming off as a branch or a limb per se. When you're on a platform, it's just a flat piece and then a body standing straight up. Like it's
flat
just,
lines in nature.
It just don't work
It's
out.
only the back of a deer. I was always told as a kid, from my dad, if you can't find the deer but you think they're around, look for a flat line.
Yep.
Well, why is that? Because there are no flat lines in the woods.
Yeah.
There's wood duck boxes, tree stands, and the backs of deer.
Exactly.
So you put the tree stand and then put this figurine in it, major big red flag. Where with the saddle, you don't have all the ladder paraphernalia.
Exactly.
You have this really simple thing that looks like a tree branch. And it climbs like a tree branch. There ain't nothing special about those.
But people will say, oh, well, you stick so much farther out off of the tree with the saddle versus a tree stand. Yeah, but think about exactly what you're talking about, the lines and different things like that. And then look at Fred Bear's, one of his 10 rules or commandments or whatever is don't look for deer, or how does it go? It's like, don't look for deer, look for movement, because that's what the deer are looking for.
Exactly.
They're looking for movement. So it's the same thing. You're looking for movement in the woods.
So back to the hunt, right? After Will shot his deer, this one doe stepped out, and she had this tumor on the back of her leg.
Oh, yeah.
That looked like a football. So she was the next target doe that we were trying to get out of there.
So much so that I thought we might have another opportunity, that I quick shot a call over to my wife, and I was like, hey, Will just aced this doe, and he doesn't want to shoot another doe in this hunt. And the deer are all on the other side of the field where they cannot see us anymore. But
and it's only 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's only 5 o'clock, and Matt says there's one in there with this gnarly, nasty tumor. We want to give ourselves the best chance. What are the chances you could drop my bow off at the bottom of my tree and, put it on this little tagline, doohickey, we got it, and I'll yank it up here, and you just keep on driving? She's like, well, yeah, no problem. Because we were hunting close to the driveway our tree was. So she was able to sneak up in there just as if she was driving up a driveway of somebody's house and drops my bow, or she didn't drop it. She hooked it to the line, and we yank it up there and touches in the truck, and he's looking out the window, and he's like, what in the world is going on?
I've never seen this before.
He's like, why are they hunting ducks from 40 feet up in that tree, And here I get my bow up there, and I'm thinking, it's been a long time, girl. You ready to make something happen here? And of course, it didn't pan out. That big gnarly doe, where did she ever end up? She never ended up on our side of the field again.
No, she stayed more in the center.
All it was those deer filtered towards the center by the end of the night.
Yeah, they were more towards you.
Except for those fresh deer we had walk in, which I don't know if you'll include any of the footage or not, but Will's like, give me the camera. You got to shoot one of these. And it was literally 2 mama deer, big mollies. And they both had twins. And they hung out in front of our tree at 10 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards.
It was like, I'm sitting there like, why aren't they shooting? I didn't realize they had does with
from
them,
all the way
fawns.
across the field, you couldn't tell that they were fawns.
No.
But it was like, as soon as Caleb's wife dropped his bow off, she started pulling away, and as soon as she started pulling away, they started coming out right behind her.
And I'm thinking,
oh
wow,
my God.
This is gonna get interesting, because anytime that I've tried to hunt that field, same thing with Matt. You can never get the deer on your side of the field. But it felt like it just worked out.
Everything clicked. And it was good the way we set it all up. We had basically all
ground, baby.
And we all were able to learn kind of about their strange movement pattern in a large area like that. I mean, we were just talking about that before. Anytime you're hunting a big field, it can be tough. Very difficult.
And the best thing was we didn't really pressure that at all this year so far. The season's only been open for 2 weeks now, but I went out there one night before we hunted that, and they were all where they were when we seen them, but they came out by you, 4 of them, and they came out where you were, where they were gonna, before they busted you. And I kid you not, one picked me out at 120 yards. I'm just sitting behind these bushes. I don't know what the heck she's seen, but she saw something. So she came in, and she starts head bobbing at me, and she runs to my right, and next thing you know, there was a knoll between us. She's 20 freaking yards, and I couldn't get a shot at her because I wasn't prepared for that. And then she busted and took off. So that's basically, and they didn't have a single fawn with them, so that's why we set you up where we did. But everything just worked out freaking awesome.
It was great.
And I mean, it was just it was almost like a goose hunt comparable deer hunt, because we
we
were all just
chat going, everyone's texting, there's deer everywhere, they're moving all over the place.
It was a busy hunt, you know what I mean? There was something going on the whole time.
There was stuff happening the whole time.
Yeah, it was cool.
And that made it great. And I'm super excited to see how you conglomerate the footage together.
Yeah, I'm going to spend some time on that one.
You know, it's not just, okay, run-of-the-mill, deer walked in, we were in the tree, we shot it, we drug it home.
I can't wait to see all three perspectives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what
one thing, it's cool that it was Will's big opportunity on that doe.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, I don't watch sports, but it's almost like watching a sports game where there's like, you know, our NASCAR race where there's like 3 different angles, like, okay, you're on the front of the cars in the gopher cam in the track. Next thing you know,
you're in the car.
You're up top, and then you're in the car. You know, like that's what I almost feel like the video is going to be like. So I'm like eager to watch.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset because I have a feeling that you're going to be dropping that when I'm in Colorado, and there's going to be 0 servers out there.
It is up next.
I know, and I'm like biting at the bit to watch it. So
no, it's going to be an awesome video.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess to kind of wrap this up, you actually went out last night.
Yeah, and I actually shot the one with the tumor on her butt.
How did that go?
So it was actually funny. I got there kind of late because like we're prepping to get all the stuff together for Colorado. Mm-hmm. So I picked a trailer up with my mother and everything. And as soon as she left, I got dressed and ran out to the stand. And I mean, by dressed, I had gray Carhartt pants on and a camouflage T-shirt. Like that was it. So it's like 5:30, and I run up to the tree stand and I get out at the barn, and Caleb's dog Dutch comes out and he's all excited to see me. So I play with him for a second and I run out to the tree and I set my first stick up. And I mean, I tell you, we have a lot of bears on the property. We have a mess of them. So I'm setting my first stick up and I look down and I don't have my lineman's rope. I'm like, son of a gun. So all of a sudden I hear these leaves start rustling and these twigs breaking. I peek around the tree and I see this black thing coming. I'm like,
oh no.
I'm like, this is my bow's all the way over here tied to a rope. I'm like, oh my God, this is where I die. Like, this is like, this is terrible. Next thing I know, I see Dutch's head peek around the tree. He's like, Uncle Matt, I found you. He was so excited. He found me. And I mean, he found me online. He just like, he didn't even blink. So I brought him back to the barn. I grabbed my lines and rope. I ran back in the tree. There was already a doe and a fawn out there. So I'm like trying to really hustle. Got set up and everything. And they came out the same exact spot that they did when you guys hunted with us. And they caught me again. Same spot. They caught my wind. And I had this basically the same one we did the other day.
I think you should maybe try a different deodorant.
Honestly, dude, I was putting sheetrock up all day. And I can't even believe I killed a deer because I got home and Jordan's like, whew, boy, you are ripe. And I'm like, yeah, I think so. So I get winded. They go out. They do this basic same thing, run up the fence line, whatever. But where I was sitting, it's like a corner of the field, and they come across from the neighbors, and they run the corner to get into the green field. And I'm like, that was my opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Sitting there, I'm kind of like down a little bit. And next thing I know, I hear the fence go. And I look over, and they're like 20 yards. Like, it's kind of thick off to my left. And I can just see the bodies coming out. I'm like, holy smokes, dude, there's deer coming. Get the bow ready. I ranger 28 yards, and they see the other deer, and they start going towards them, like moving pretty quick. And I had no idea that the one I shot had the tumor on her butt.
Really?
No clue. I didn't even know.
That's so funny.
So she goes out, and I range her again. She's 40 yards, and she's quartering away. I freaking sent the arrow, and as soon as I sent the arrow, she turned a little bit, and I almost put it right up her poop chute. Like, I mean, it was like 3 inches to the left of her butt, and it went buried to the fletchings, all the way up into her chest. She ran 30 feet, fell over dead. I said, holy smokes, I cannot believe I got her. So she could hardly move her back leg, so I think I broke her hip, and it went in and got everything. All the other deer had no clue what, like, they came walking back. They're like looking around. There's like they're blowing towards the other deer, like blowing at them, going. Whoo, whoo. Meanwhile, I'm behind the deer that just shot the other one. So I got down, and before I got down, Caleb comes bebopping through the driveway. He has no idea. Meanwhile, there's a deer laying with the arrow sticking out of her ass, like right next to the driveway.
Yeah, I'm coming home from work, so I take a drive around, check on the perimeter of the farm, see what's going on, whatever. And then I got on the farm road, and I'm just kind of pulling through there, and I'm on the phone with Seth talking, plans with Arkansas, and I'm like all gamed up, like my head's like in a totally different place. I had no idea. I drove right by, and then I get back to the driveway of the house, and I see Matt's headlights, pulling in the driveway behind me. I'm like, I wonder what he was up to, And he's like, I got her. I got Mrs. Wart. I'm like, what are you talking about?
So
he's like, you didn't see her? I'm like, See who? I don't even know what you're talking about.
So I walked up to her and I pulled the arrow out. And when I pulled the arrow out, I like looked down. I was like, "What in the world is that thing?" And I'm like, "Holy smokes, it's Mrs. Warts!" I had no clue it was her. I mean, she was huge, but it's I had it on my phone and I sent it to you last night. It's like some species specific infection that goes around. It is not dangerous to humans. Like you can still eat the meat and everything. So I took that deer in our one high school down the road. We'll have their they have agriculture class. They'll have the kids actually butcher it up and process it.
Oh, that's cool.
And then it goes to Goodwill.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I try to do like every year. I'll try to send at least 1 or 2 there because like we still have some meat in the freezer. And like God forbid we shoot 2 elk, dude. Like you're gonna have meat in your freezer. Everyone we hunt with is gonna have meat in their freezer. Like it's gonna be crazy. So. Yeah, last night we got Mrs. Warts the target though so far, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, it was cool. It was a cool hunt.
So now the deer that walk in that field are like kidnapping other deer's fawns. Come with me. Otherwise you're gonna get shot. There's snipers in the trees.
To the middle quick.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
So,
yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna wrap that one up here. That one went about an hour and a half here. So
holy smokes!
I know we went on for it, but time flies when you're having fun, right, Matt?
That's it, man.
And so, anyways, we appreciate you guys listening. Go be sure to check out the video and see what all the fun is about. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.